bunch coming into view. Oh, look at that one of the Nissan GT-R's has gone off into the wall. That is a very, very big accident.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I still remember it very vividly because it was qualifying, and Richo and I were battling, for pole position. It was such an important corner, and it was really the start of track limits because the exit curb was a really big, aggressive exit curb. You weren't allowed to run up and over and around it. You had to stay within the confines, so you could use the curb but had to stay two wheels on the road. So I come through the corner, it was on the slide, it was such an important corner leading on to the straight into Quetterville, and when it slid, the left-hand rear wheel hit the curb hard, broke the bottom out of the wheel and turned it straight over on its roof, and it was skating along going bloody fast, and it was on its roof. Because of the A-pillar angle, it started to wear through into my helmet, and it ended up hitting the fence really hard, spun back around, come back out onto the road, and because of the damage to the A-pillar and the amount of damage to the car, I couldn't open the door and it caught fire. So all I could hear is the marshals running over and going, "It's on fire, it's on fire," and I'm trying to get the door open. I couldn't get the door open, so yeah, it was a pretty wild moment.
The trouble with us was the fact that he'd actually gone into the corner, so you didn't see him until you went around the corner yourself, and next minute he's on his roof and he's sliding around like mad and coming back across the track, and the track being quite narrow because there's only concrete walls either side. There wasn't much place to go.
So fortunately, Bondi, with all that legendary skill, was able to evade, me parked in the middle of the road. But what they did in the end was actually pull up. So Joe Summerriver in a BMW 635, he pulled up, and Brock and Bond were also there because I couldn't open the door. And when the marshal said it was on fire, they had to assist in getting the door open. So it wasn't just the evasion of the incident and what could have been a lot worse. It was actually their presence of mind to pull up on the right-hand side and be able to help. The introduction to GT-R under the Group A homologation or regulations of the day was quite an interesting one because it was four-wheel drive, twin-turbo, full steer, it had all these features. And it was crafted as the absolute weapon that Nissan Motor Company had for Group A regulations around the world. And it was then the dominant car like a Ford Sierra was or whatever the other cars were throughout that dominant Group A era. It's the supercar of all supercars, The reason that car ended up being as dominant as it was purely because of the best people and the best team of the day.
And this is just an absolutely glorious start for the Nissan. They couldn't have asked for any more than this. They've got themselves into the picture position, and Mark Skaife doing a stellar job here with the controls of the GT-R. Exactly tearing past Brock down the straight and getting there.
People from the Gibson era being involved in it, Alan Heaphy and Pete West, and the guys that knew how important it was for that to be authentic. The last time I saw it, it was a very average look. It was pretty damaged when I saw it last, and to walk in here today and to see it and to see the level of detail and how much work's gone into making it, the authentic car and making sure that the attention to detail is where it should be, is extraordinary. It looks fantastic. You've done a great job to be able to find the right seats and all the right stuff. It's remarkable. Yeah. It's a remarkable thing when you think about the car being basically as fast as our current cars, and you see the amount of bar work.
It's scary, isn't it? It is.
Lucky we didn't know any better in those days.
Dead right. I mean, when we sort of put the cage in the thing, it took me something like 8 months to try and get Motorsport Australia to agree that we could put the cage in as per the original cars, because there was 4 other original cars there with the cage in it.
Yeah, right.
We had to change the material. We couldn't use chrome moly. We had to go for drawn steel. So, so fundamentally, it's the same design cage in every aspect as what the original had. So a good 8 years ago, out of the blue, one Saturday morning, I got a phone call from a gent who said he had some parts for a Nissan Skyline that he'd bought in a school auction. He was cleaning his shed out and he didn't want them anymore, so he found us where we were and said, was I interested in the things? And I said, well, what have you got? So he sent me a photograph of it, and it happened to be the front driver's door off the first Skyline that was ever built, which is the 001 chassis. That sort of kindled off, well, if that's kicking around, there's got to be a lot of other bits, because it was a full mechanical car in its time, and based on the circumstances at the time that the chassis had to be sort of crushed. I thought, right, well, where's the rest of the thing? So it started the ball rolling, and then we sort of found like a gearbox that was the original gearbox, various suspension parts that were part of the car as well, a lot of mechanicals that were genuine parts from the car, and we had no body shell. So we then scoured the world for a genuine R32 GT-R shell, and we're fortunate enough to find one that had been brought into Australia but had been terrorised. I mean, the mechanicals were no good and the thing, the body was damaged and all that sort of stuff, but it was ideal for where we wanted to go. The car has been rebuilt by a lot of team members from the original group of that era of 1990, 91, that sort of thing.
I was a very young man employed as one of the engine builders. Come along quite early in 1990, initially to build engines for customer HO31s. That then evolved into being a pretty significant player in the building and preparation process of the RB26 in the GT-Rs. I've been very fortunate to be, I guess, project manage the rebirth of this car, along with quite a number of other guys that were involved back in the era. We did a tremendous amount of research ensuring that we were going to make it era correct before we started the rebirth. Key components that needed to be sourced from across the world. And that's shown in quite a lot of the fabrication work, whereas you might make stuff out of composite material these days. We've continued with that same theme. So yeah, tremendous amount of time, effort and energy went in to maintaining that originality of the rebirth.
The Nissan GT-R was a great car, and it had everything going for it. It was four-wheel drive, turbocharged, twin turbocharged. So it was always going to be a car to beat. But it's not the first time a car's done that. Like when Sierras first came in, they were very successful as well. And same between Ford and Holden. 1 year Ford would win, and then next year Holden would win vice versa. So one car sometimes has dominated in the Touring Car Championship, and it took them a little while for that to happen. And once they mastered the potential of the car, it was just about unbeatable.
It wasn't a really nice piece of kit. It certainly wasn't an Australian version of a proper touring car. And we did a huge amount of testing, but there was hardly a part on the car in the end that wasn't Australianised and made better through the course of that whole project, right up culminating in a couple of Touring Car Championship wins and